Despite the ongoing success of those cooperatives, Argentina's economy faces some very serious challenges. For one, the country is struggling to pay creditors who still hold billions and billions of its bonds, and a currency crunch isn't helping either. For more on these issues, Juan Cruces joins us live from Buenos Aires. He is the Dean of the Business School at Torcuato de Tella University in Argentina. Pardon my Spanish, sir. Welcome to the show and welcome to Biz Asia America. My first question to you is, Kirchner, what would the legacy be if it was written today?
Well, I think the legacy would be that over the last 10 years, we have had a very substantial increase in gross domestic product and consumption, yet that has been at the cost of advancing consumption from the future. That has been at the cost of reneging international contracts and, if you will, harming the future prospects of the economy.
When you look at the economy overall, certainly it's much different today than it was a decade ago, but there are still some very serious concerns that a lot of economists are bringing up. Some of those are reforms, some of it relates to inflation. Overall, how does the economy look to you as it stands right now?
Well, if you just look at the picture, if you take a picture today, you see a very large consumption increase relative to 10 years ago. If you will, car sales today in Argentina are more than twice or 3 times the number of car sales per year that we had 10 years ago. Nevertheless, investment is heavily curtailed, has been heavily curtailed. Private investment, I mean. People who could sink their capital in this country and build factories and build roads and build infrastructure and buy Argentina bonds, those people have been shunned away by the government and by its policies. So they've been diverting away to other countries.
So that leaves a lot of the control over the next period of growth to the Argentinians themselves. But they're faced also with the negative impact of the currency and also high inflation. How is that being managed, do you think, internally? What more needs to be done to help them on that?
Well, I think the government is using a policy that is very short-lived. They're using price controls. Economists have known for centuries that price controls do not work in the long run, although in the short run they may temporarily succeed at keeping prices down. Over the last couple of days, they've decided for a freeze on consumer goods prices to go on until the October election for a basket of about 500 goods. Now, we know what might happen in those circumstances, which typically is that you go to the store and perhaps the goods are just not there on the shelf anymore.
I mean, that's a serious problem. If you're looking to invest in Argentina and you live there and you're dealing with those types of issues, that makes it much more unlikely that you're going to invest in the long run. Is the government looking to change some of these things? I mean, if there was 1 or 2 things you could advise the government to change to address that issue, what would that be?
I don't think the government has a clear diagnosis of the current problems. In my personal view, a clear diagnosis would start by realizing that private investment has shrunk dramatically, and asset prices, the prices of corporations, very vividly reflect that fact. I don't think the government is going to make any change, certainly not until the October elections. If the government gets some sort of backing in October, they might need to do some pro-market reforms just to be able to hang on until the presidential elections 2 years down the line. But in the foreseeable near term, next 5 to 6 months, I do not see any pro-market reforms going forward. I mean, this does have a very positive...
What you're saying is that the government is not aware of the existence of some of these problems, and I find that a bit concerning because they would probably know. It's more the issue is, do they have the sort of wherewithal to address the issues prior to the election?
No, I actually think they're unaware that they have a false diagnosis. You see, Argentina has done very well in terms of GDP growth over the last 10 years by doing pretty much everything that a US trained economist would suggest the government to do. And by doing the opposite of what mainstream economists might recommend, they have done very well. And they want to insist along those lines because they think there has been that, you know, in their sample, there has been the road to success. Because at the end of the day, the economy has grown a lot.
Okay.
And this has been for
Juan
two reasons.
Cruces, I apologize, we're out of time. Joining us live from Buenos Aires, Dean, Business School, Torcuato, Tella University. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week.